Speech is a key component in the public relations arsenal, and it is very germane to the practice of the profession. Some have argued that the two are just like a Siamese twins, that is, one cannot do without the other. And that is the focus of our discussion on Your Image today, public relations and speech writing. I have professionals in the house with me today. I have, of course, professionals, heads, and people who have traversed in this profession of speech writing, and as far as public relations is also concerned, we have another scholar in that perspective. In the studios with me, I have a lecturer of English from the Department of English Language, Federal College of Education, Oshiele, Abeokuta, Dr. Amos Agboyinu. Dr. Amos Agboyinu, you're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I also have another public speaker. He's also a communications scholar. He's a pastor. I have a Right Honorable Pastor Remi Azan, Special Advisor to the Governor of Ogun State on Public Communications. He's also in the studios with me. You're welcome to Your Image, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Another PRS part is also a veteran, one-time Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Ogun State. You call him, he's also a pastor. Let me say, Pastor Dari Folari, you are welcome to Your Image.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
You can see that I have a combination of experts on the show today. Let me start from Dr. Amos Agboyinu. Now, there's no way we can write a good speech without taking a look at the linguistic aspect of this speech. You know, we can say that it is the backbone, the life wire of a good speech. What do we look at as a specialist, as a linguist? What do we look at when we take a look at a speech? What are the components that we should, you know, take our time to look at as far as the linguistic aspect of it is concerned?
Thank you, sir. In the first instance, production of a good speech, I must take certain things into cognizance. In the first instance, you need to look at the purpose of the speech, the audience that you are going to interact with, the environment, as well as the situation that licenses the speech delivery. That will inform your choice of selecting your language as well as the use of the language. In Nigerian situation, we have problems with the use of language. There's something we need to understand in the first instance, that now if you want to make use of language, you need to consider the reality of using your language to achieve a specific purpose.
Okay.
If you don't have that at the back of your mind, you may backfire. I mean, you may misfire. You may say something that will not actually meet the purpose why you are producing the speech. So that's why you need to know the purpose of the speech, the people that are concerned, the reason why that gathering is taking place. That will enable you to select how you use your language. Now, we want to appear sophisticated in the use of English in Nigerian situation. And because of that, we do a lot of things that do not really help us to achieve our goal of speech delivery. It happens everywhere, even in the environment, academic environment. If you go to the class with the intention of impressing people with your English, you will focus upon yourself and your choice of language, your choice of vocabulary, your choice of the syntactic choice, as well as the spoken speech that you are going to produce. We will not be focusing on what you want to achieve. And when you focus too much upon you want to show that, yes, I know the language, I have mastery, I'm good at the use of English, you will rather be selecting sophisticated words that may not speak to your audience. You will be looking at the way you can use your grammar in a way that people will see you and clap and then
clap for you.
Yes, whereas language primarily is meant to achieve a purpose. You want to move people to do something. So you select words that will actually capture the need.
Okay.
You want to attract people's attention to certain event or situation, you choose the language that will actually make them to move along with you.
All right. If I may get it right, that means that we should right to express ourselves than writing to oppress or impress people.
Yes.
All right. Now, Pastor Remi as well, he mentioned something that you need to also corroborate on, and that's the language itself. The language itself. As a speechwriter and somebody who has been in communication field for so many years, how do you connect your language between, for instance, your master and the people?
All right.
Yeah, your principal. Thank you very much. Yeah, your principal.
Thank you very much. I think I'm the least professional among eggheads here, but that's the beauty of public relations. It's an agglomeration of all professionals, and that's why you can see an engineer still being in the face of the public, trying to communicate. Now, like he rightly mentioned, there must be a purpose for every speech. Once the purpose is established, it is for you now to break it down into how to achieve effective communication. Because in the speech, you ain't talking to yourself. You want to get a message across. And so you must be sure that what you are putting together carries the message, especially in the political field, where if you leave any room to be misconstrued, you will now have reasons to return and do damage control. Claiming now to have been quoted out of context. So your conciseness in the messaging must be very, very visible and incontrovertible as much as possible. Controversies may arise, but you shouldn't leave room to be controverted in a way that is avoidable. That's on one side. Now, the choice of language, of course, whatever is the lingua franca in the community suffices. In our own climb, English is the lingua franca we have chosen. But of course, there are climes where you still see them communicating in the mother tongue, and that's because dialects are not as, too much of a problem. In the north, for example, someone can give a speech of an hour in the Hausa language, and is getting the message across. And that's why you see that certain channels of communication speak only the language that such people can understand. So the conciseness of the messaging must be taken seriously as definitive, not leaving any room for being controverted. Let me give you an instance. A particular political office holder who is more like a technocrat, so to say, was trying to give scorecard of a particular governor. And she went like, we have done such and such and such and such and such in such and such a place. And it turns out that all the places she has mentioned is in one senatorial district. Now, the political dimension to that communication, those who are listening with the political ear are now going to say this is inequitable. Now, you have left room for damage control there. So rather than say that, just go ahead and say such and such has been done in all the senatorial districts and will be equitable as possible. Where there is now need to narrow it down to specific, that will be addition, not the body of the speech itself.
All right, thank you very much. Let me now go back to Mr. Dali Folari. You're a PR expert, and when you're talking about speech, of course, public relations also has a room for that. Now, let's look at most of our PR people. Some of them have been found wanting in the area of speech writing. The lacuna is there. What do you think is responsible for this? Do you mean lack of training or what?
Well, speech is basically a human feature. It is only human beings that have speech. Animals do not have speech. They give out something. So, in communication, like the Honorable rightly said, effectiveness of communication is when you get desired action. When you have achieved the desired aim of your speech. And even the Holy Book says, by your mouth you'll be condemned, and by your mouth you'll be justified. So you need to come up with the purpose of your speech. It is when you have an occasion, whether you are put on the spot, you have to aggregate the views of the happiness of some people or the grief of some people. So you come up with a fantastic speech, that will move the people. you know, to establish mutual relationship between the organization and its publics.
All right, thank you very much. You're watching Your Image from these studios, and we're talking about public relations and speech writing. You can be part of this discussion via the number that will be displayed on your television screen. You can also be watching us live on DSTV, GoTV, and Start Time. I'm sure my guests are up to the task, and you have a lot of things to gain from this show today. And let me go back to Dr. Amos Agbonyinu. Now, having listened to other discussants, I still want to come back to you in the area of language. You know, we have a lot of things to do when you cannot be concise, just like the Right Honorable Emi Hassan has said. Now, to those students who want to, because we discovered that we don't have a specific school of speech writing in Nigeria, and there should be, and I think that is where most of our political office holders and people who various offices should attend, and this is very important. So as a lecturer, don't you see the need for a training school for speech writing? Your opinion about this?
As regards the issue of speech writing, it's part of our curriculum in the universities and the college of education. We have courses that treat speech writing, and all the ideas that go into speech writing are taught to the students. Well, if they want to, if you feel a school could be established for speech writing, I don't know, but if students who pass through English courses in universities or college education where I teach, there we also take degree courses. If students that are there, if they take interest in that aspect of a career, they can pick some things in our school, in other universities, and they will learn. For instance, in speech writing, we have rudiments that are put into it. In the first place, there is need for crafting. If you want to write, you are planning to write a speech, there's something we refer to as crafting. That crafting involves you sourcing for information and planning what you want to put in place. Get your information, you could visit the internet, the library, you interview people, brainstorm with others in order to assemble your points that you want to write about. And all those things we teach in the universities and college education. If a student which area they want to go into, and such person can go ahead and develop himself further, we teach speech writing in the school.
Now, I want to know, Emi Hassan, as a speech writer and a public communicator, there is a school of thought believes that you are as good as the book you read. Do you believe in that thought?
Very much so.
But most youths, yes, but most youths of nowadays don't read more as expected. Why would they get the craft of writing speech if they want to delve into it? Because he said they teach it in school. It may not be enough. You know, because before you get to where you are today, I know you must have read a lot of books. You must have learned a lot of things from different scholars and authors whose books you have read. So how do you get out of this quagmire?
The culture of reading, for me, began from my days in secondary school. Those were days that even secondary school can boast of libraries with books. And I went to a secondary school that was daily also buying newspapers. And you could get acquainted with what's going on in the country with the daily tabloids that are made available in the library. Now, for us to get out of this quagmire, we have to go back to the basics. Those who are still helping us to mold these younger ones should begin now to see how this can be brought back into the curriculum. Apart from the long break, which allows you to have your lunch, there is a special session that is called the library session, which each class has on the timetable, yes. And you are not expected to be anywhere but the library at that time. And because of the space available that may not contain everyone, some classes were allowed to take books away from the library and go to your class and just read. And because you can't make noise, you either read the book or you just hold it to yourself there. And rather than waste the book's off-shelf period, you also at least glance through some things. So that foundation is where this can be corrected. Those elements that are already out there that haven't imbibed this culture it may be difficult because when the fish is still fresh, that's when you can bend it. When it is already either frozen or dry or cooked, attempting to bend it will be to break it. But rather than lose completely the future that stares us in the face, we can still go back to that basic and get things corrected.
Wow, fantastic. Now, Mr. Abai-Folarin, as a PR practitioner, these days, I ask a question, it's going to be a follow-up question to what I earlier asked you. Is it every PR practitioner that should be a speechwriter? Because public relation, is very broad, and we still have sub-practitioner under it. I mean, some practice under it. We have people who practice, different specializations.
It's a given. It's a skill that every PR practitioner must have. Speech writing is a skill everybody must possess. Every PR person must possess. And you're talking about reading. You should be an omnivorous reader. Read everything. Know a little bit about everything. That is when you can be articulate. That is when you can come up with a speech that will move the people. It's necessary. You need to be a reader. Readers are leaders. When you read, you have information, then you can communicate. So if you don't read, you can't give what you don't have.
Yes.
So you can't come up with any speech that will be inspiring, that will move the people. And Shakespeare, and you saw some of his writings, and then Churchill gave an advice that if you are going to speak for 5 minutes, spend 1 hour at your desk researching. And these days, research has been made easy. With all the search engines we have Google, we have all this, all this information at the tip of your hands. So it's only a lazy PR person who will not read and who will not come up with compelling speeches when he has to do that. That comes with the territory.
So no shortcuts.
No shortcut.
Well, assuming that is only one PR that I have that an organization has, and how does it?
We are like commandos. PR persons are like commandos. We do so many things. Multitasking is part of the game. You be a speechwriter, you be an organizer, you be the MC. Those are the skills.
And you plan events too.
You plan events. So you need all these multi-skills. So it comes with the territory, and you need to be proficient in whatever language you are asked to prepare the speech. If it's English, you'll be a proficient user. If it's Yoruba, you'll be we remember the days of Akitola. Go and listen to the hazards in the old Western region. Akitola, that's Ladoke Akitola, was a compelling speaker, a compelling speechwriter. If he speaks English, Yoruba or Hausa, compelling. Go and listen to all the hazards, and you see the beauty of language.
Well, you see the beauty of language, and the best way to learn how to write good speech is to read and read as if tomorrow will never come. Dr. Aboyinu, now that you're producing English language students, graduates on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, and like Right Honorable Hassan has said, that reading culture is almost gone in Nigeria. How do we revitalize it so that at least the coming generation can have something to play with, to do with, at least, to make a future with? So what efforts are you people making, lecturers?
Thank you, sir. In our own school, for instance, we have well-equipped library, as well as the e-library, and students are encouraged from time to time. Anytime students come to our school, we give them orientation on how to make the best use of the library. They are registered and they are given access to the library.
I'm sorry to interject, because we had the program here last week, and it boiled down to reading culture.
All right.
Students don't go to library again. Yes, let's be factual. They didn't go to library again.
Yes, sir.
But the library, I agree with you.
All right. But I'm coming.
Okay.
Now, the library is there, it's available to them.
Okay.
And sometimes, for you as a lecturer, if you want to encourage students to visit the library, you give them assignments. So we give assignments to students, we ask them to present in the class, and there's no how you will present anything in the class without reading and writing. Sometimes our students, some students have the habit of visiting the internet and downloading things. Now, a good lecturer can never be ignorant, and if anything that is downloaded is brought to you, this thing is not, it's a finished work.
Intellectual theft.
Yes. So you know that this is not the product of your brain.
I'd like to add something. This reading culture, to stimulate it, all of us must be involved. You see, when we are giving gifts, a birthday gift, gift a book. Give your child a book. When you are giving people birthday gifts, make it books. There are interesting books. Go around, give books as gifts, so that it will encourage people to, like Honorable was saying when we were in the secondary school, we used to read James Hadley Chase. In fact, we used to tamper, banter with James Hadley Chase. Come easy, go easy. You never So something we did with
As a matter of fact, in those days, if it may interest you to know that I didn't go to secondary school at all.
Wow, interesting.
Studied at home.
It's reading that made me to develop. I didn't go to secondary school at all.
Wow.
When I was a policeman. When I was in the police, I could spend the last kobo I had to purchase book.
So you read the parts.
James Bond, and all those things. I read them within a space of about 6-8 months, and I went outside GCE and I passed it.
That's interesting.
I usually tell my students that if you form the habit of reading, there is no way you cannot reach. And I tell them. So
let me quickly just add something here. You see, the cyber revolution has also killed the reading culture. Because back then you could sit down and read a book, but this day you just Google the particular thing you
Books
want.
too can be downloaded.
I understand what you're saying, but the search engines will take you to the specifics of what you're looking for, and that's where the plagiarism begins. So these days, I will prefer a situation where there is an arrangement that directs students to specific books within a particular cycle of semester or session, so that come what may, they are compelled to read it, and that will have been added to their retinue of knowledge that they have been
that
able
is
to
very
gather.
possible. That's possible.
All right, let's just take away from this. What's your advice for those who are watching us, especially people who really want to be good, very good writers?
Yeah, like all things, speeches have structure. There is a head, there is a body, and there is a conclusion. So when you want to, and you need to come up with compelling openings. When you stand in front of people and you come up with a compelling opening, people listen to you.
Yes.
It's called the power pause. So you need to do that. And you need, also need your reputation. When you are standing in front, if you are integrity challenged, nobody will want to listen to you. So you need to watch your reputation. You need to be a proficient user of English language or whatever language you are using. You need to be grammatical, and you need, the flavor, metaphors, all these things that come in. Those are the ingredients. They are the ingredients for a good speech.
All right. Right, Honorable Remi Azan, your takeaway from this show.
If you want to communicate through speech writing, added to what our beloved brother has said here, please never disconnect from your listening audience. Once you do that, the whole essence of the speech is already wasted.
All right, Dr. Agboyinu, a very brief one from you before we round off.
Yes. In speech writing, there is need for one to select simple language that the people you are addressing, all the people you are addressing, will understand.
All right, this is where we round off on this week's edition of Your Image. I'm sure I'll still bring my guests back next week, God willing. I'm sure they will oblige me. And I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Amos Agboyinu, a lecturer at the Department of English Language, Federal College of Education, Abeokuta. Thank you so much for joining our show this week.
You're welcome.
And Right Honorable Remi Azan, one-time Deputy Speaker of the State House of Assembly and Special Advisor on Public Communications to the Governor of Ogun State. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure you'll join me next week, God willing.
Hopefully.
Okay. And Mr. Dari Folani, a PR expert, a veteran.
Always a
Thank you, sir.
pleasure. Thank you.
Until we meet next week, let's learn how to read a book in a day so that we can be a fantastic speech writer. See you next week.